Bo has been officially tied. Let's move
We'll see you
on.
guys back here next year for the same conversation.
Welcome to Center Cup. I'm Kyle Muserino, joined as always by Will Neary and Nick Newmeyer, and today is preview day. We've got the Genesis Invitational back at Riviera. LPGA kicks off its Asian swing in Thailand at the Honda LPGA. And we've got DP World Tour has their magical Kenya Open. But first, we are touching on Tiger Woods' press conference from Tuesday morning. Nick, what were your main takeaways? I think the clip that's going viral is him reacting to not being completely ruled out of the Masters. So we can touch on that, but what else stood out to you, Nick?
Yeah, I think we do this every year where he just kind of amps up for the majors, like injures himself, kind of goes on a hiatus until about Genesis, and then we come back, we kind of just start this whole process again. So it's just kind of the same questions we get every year, like how you feeling, like where's your game at, like just overall questions about the tour. No, I thought it was interesting. I think obviously your point that Masters is not off the table is very interesting. Um, I would love to see him there. It's good to see him back out. One thing he did say was that he is able to hit full shots, not every day, but he has. I think the last update we got during the TGL match was that he was able to hit up to like a 5 iron. So it looks like he's progressed up to full shots, which is very good. Um, does not have a target yet as to his return to the PGA Tour, but he did mention that he's open to playing on the Champions Tour. The cart is a big draw there. And so I think there is, I don't know the exact name of the event, but there is an event on the Champions Tour that is sponsored by a company that Tiger is heavily invested in that is 2 weeks before the Masters. And so if I were a betting man, which legally I cannot, but if I were, I would bet on him making his return to golf at that event, which okay, let me pull this up just so I'm not just spouting PGA Champions
Well, I can tell you I've already
schedule.
placed my wager on him to win the Masters at 200 to 1.
Well,
So
there you go. Yeah, okay. So it's the Cologuard Classic, March 20th. That's where I anticipate we could be seeing Tiger back in action. So that's just good to see. And he obviously talked about just some of the other goings about himself. He said, his Achilles is not an issue, which is good to hear. Did say he can't dunk a basketball anymore, which, that's just one thing that me and Tiger have in common, but that he is still just kind of working through the disc replacement. He mentioned that, Will Zalatoris went through the same surgery and is back on tour, but he is much older than Will Zalatoris. He was also asked about the potential Ryder Cup captainship in 2027, which everybody is really thinking about that. But just looking at what his schedule is, obviously he's on the board of the PGA Tour now. That's where a lot of his energy is really directed towards. And Tiger's not going to mess around if he is the captain of that team. That is going to be a well-oiled machine that is going to win 14 and a half to nothing. Like that is that is going to be his team, and he's going to put 100% of his time into it. So that's where he wants to. He said the PGA of America has asked for his input on just the possible captainship, but he hasn't really committed to anything. He's trying to see whether he can fit it into his schedule. What he is doing in the meantime is he's hard at work at reworking the PGA Tour schedule and just really kind of ushering in the new age of the tour. One thing he wanted to talk about was just trying to please all parties of players, media, sponsors, fans. They want to have it in place by 2027, but it might not be as quick of a release. Um, the one thing he tried to emphasize was that less is more. Um, just kind of, I think his exact quote was that there would be less tour cards given out. I think we've seen this from the previous years of the full status from the FedEx Cup has gone from the top 25 down to the top 100. I'm personally not a fan of that. I kind of like when it's a bit more of like a larger field. You have a bit of like the young up and coming guys can make their starts. You can have like the nice heartwarming story. So I wasn't a real big fan of that when I saw that personally, but I think he did also mention that even though they're trying to go with this like less is more model, they're trying to make sure that there is still that pipeline for the young talent through both PGA University and or PGA Tour University and the Corn Ferry Tour as well. So overall, just a good press conference from Tiger. You know, it's kind of we're kind of used to his answers at this point, but it's always good when we can see him on our screen in some shape or form.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was interesting to me and what you just talked about, the whole less is more concept of and the fewer PGA Tour cards. I'll be curious to see how that manifests. I think, like you said, we're used to Tiger Woods' answers, and as a Patriots fan, it reminds me a lot of Bill Belichick. Like he's going to tell you what he wants to tell you, and not a lot more. And when I talk about Bill Belichick, I'm talking like good Bill Belichick, not UNC Bill Belichick, not Jordan
Ooh.
Hudson. But no, I'm curious to see what this means because he didn't necessarily say that the field size is going to be smaller, right? It's the full status PGA Tour cards are going to be fewer. He did emphasize a lot about making sure that they try to balance encouraging younger talent and giving younger talent opportunity while also giving obviously the best in the world the opportunity to continue to succeed on the PGA Tour. He mentioned, how he was able to come out to Riviera when he was like 16 and play. Um, so I'm curious to see if when he talks about less full status PGA Tour cards, if the goal of that will be to have similar sized fields with more opportunity for players who don't have full status and are younger potentially to take up those extra spots. That's something that could be interesting. I think then you have to talk about like, what does the sustainability it makes me it raises the same questions that like minor league baseball raises, right? Like if you're not playing consistently, it's hard to make a career of it, at least on a consistent basis when you're younger. But obviously that's all stuff that we're gonna figure out as we go. I guess the question I have that this raised for me is the fact that Masters is not off the table, like, is a little surprising to me. Not that like I'm not excited. Like God, I hope he plays the Masters. He had a surgery in October, I think, of 2025, right? And like he mentions Zalatoris. Zalatoris took 8 months off for the first surgery he had, the microdiscectomy. I'm definitely mispronouncing that. My apologies. And then took another 7 or so months off after his disc revision that he had back in May 2025. And that's kind of right on the same timetable that would put, I mean, the surgeries are slightly different, I know, but that's around the same timetable that would put Tiger at the Masters 7 months after his surgery. And that feels awfully quick for somebody Tiger's age compared to Will Zalatoris. And somebody who's gone through all the things physically that Tiger has gone through. Again, I hope to see him play and I hope he's out there, but I would rather see him healthy and play than like see him rush forward to get to Augusta. Um, it feels quick. I mean, obviously nobody knows better than Tiger, and he is a different beast when it comes to everything literally in his life. So he will definitely work as hard as he possibly can to get there. I was a little shocked, shocked is the wrong word. I was a little surprised just to see that that is something that he's still eyeing, considering how recent that surgery was, and considering the fact that he can hit a 5 iron right now and not make full swings every day.
Yeah, and I think the kind of what I was getting at when I said that we kind of have this same process every year is that he gets asked that master's question at every single Genesis. And I think what we see every year is that he tries to, it is so important to him to play in majors and especially at Augusta. And I think what he often tries to do is he amps himself up a little too much to play Augusta and just doesn't put himself in a good position and, you know, so I echo everything you say. I would love to see him at Augusta. I'm not sure it is the best opportunity for him, which I mean, obviously he needs to get healthy in order for this to be a legitimate conversation. But I think, this is what I'm going to say that might be a little bit controversial in regards to Tiger Woods. I'm not sure if we see. Actually, I'm almost completely sure we don't see a major championship out of him ever again. And if it is, it's at Augusta. I think the Masters, quite frankly, should be the only major he plays throughout the rest of his career.
I I don't disagree with the first part of that take that we are very, 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 very to the nth degree unlikely to see another major a major win out of Tiger Woods. Um, obviously, if there was ever anybody to come back from the things he's gone through and win again, it would be him. But I mean, man, we are almost 7 years removed from his 2019 victory, which was a miracle in and of itself in 2019. And we are several surgeries and several hurdles and obstacles later. And it's to see him play one of these things and like walk all 4 days and not be in pain. I think that's like the target for me now. Like I'm no longer weighing. I mean, if he makes the cut, man, I'm going to be psyched, and he probably will. I would expect that if he plays major championships ever again consistently, he's going to be making the cut. I hope he gives it a shot at a US Open or something like that. At least once more if his body's feeling up for it. But I completely agree that I think generally victories should not be the goal. I mean, when you're Tiger Woods, I think that's always the goal. But to
Yeah,
me at
because
least.
at the end of the day, like like Masters is one thing. Like Masters, it's the conditions of the course, unless it's like really cold and rainy, like it's typically going to be doable for him to walk all 4 days. But like the U.S. Open, for example, like that's a physical test for anybody, and it's like the hardest conditions meant to like absolutely punish you. Like Tiger has no business playing in a tournament like that. Like I don't think he hasn't played well in the US Open in quite some time. And it's just like I don't mean to sound like a doomer when I say this. Like I love Tiger. I want to see him in as much competitive golf as I can, but in this current setting right now, the pathway to success is, or even the path to, if we're thinking long term, the path to win number 83 is not through playing the majors. And it's through playing, like, instead of, I mean, I understand why he has to play Riviera, but I'd love to see the players. I feel like Sawgrass is a course that, fits his, physical limitations a bit more now. It's a bit more of a flatter course. I'd love to see him play that tournament. I'd love to see him play a bit more like regular season events throughout the year. Like I feel like obviously Tiger the competitor is going to want to win at the highest stage and he's just going to push his body to play at the major championships, but I think that's currently detrimental to his recovery right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll put a bow on it, Will, unless you had something else to add.
I was just going to ask you guys the one thing we didn't touch on that I was curious about that I didn't know a ton about was this. I knew obviously a lot of the conversations regarding the schedule, especially the early season events. What I was a little less, I think, conscious of was the conversation regarding moving some of the West Coast events, including Riviera, to be like playoff events, to be like end of summer, better weather. And he specifically did mention that the Genesis being moved to a playoff event is something that they've discussed and is on the table. That's not something I had thought about really. I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think it's an interesting idea. Obviously, it would make Tiger playing in the Genesis a little bit more complicated, but
Yeah.
generally, I just wanted to hear your guys like what was your guys' reaction? Was that something you were tapped into before, or how do you guys think? Obviously, the schedule is going to shake up. We know that. That specifically though, like the West Coast events moving to playoff and to later summer, is that something that you think would generally be beneficial?
I mean, I think it was a conversation that I had been sort of reading up on a bit last week. I know it was kind of in discussions as well. I think Pebble Beach is wasted in February. I think it's still on the earlier swing. Like, maybe obviously it's a signature now. Like the pro-am has kind of like muddied the waters a little bit, but it's it is too good of a course to be wasted at an event like that. And I think, obviously for Pebble, you kind of want it to like bite back a little bit. And I'm hoping we do see that at the US Open in 27. But I think having, I quite frankly, I couldn't tell you where the BMW is being played this year. Like I think having playoff events, like obviously Tour Championship is East Lake, and it has that pedigree of it's a championship course, and that's where the Tour Championship is played. And I think having, if you really want to legitimize, I know they're like really trying to rework the FedEx Cup this year, but if you want to legitimize your playoffs, I think giving putting the highest scale wins at the highest scale courses, I think that's a great move. And I think shifting some of these courses towards the later stage of the season would give it a bit more meaning. And I think it's a great idea. It's something that wasn't really on my radar before, but I think it's a great idea.
It's at Belle Reve, by the way, the BMW. Not to cut you off, Kyle.
No, I
Just
mean I'm seeing people talk about it like it's already a done deal. Like that's people are expecting it to happen and would be surprised if it didn't. So, I mean, definitely interested to see, what that is. And it seems like Tiger is one of the driving forces behind it too.
And can I
yeah,
just mention one thing before I hand it back to you? The point you made about if the Genesis is a playoff event, it could complicate Tiger playing in the event. The one vibe I got from this press conference today was that his like game and maybe just like what he's been saying over the course of the last few months, I think his game as a player or his role as a player is basically a footnote in today's press conference. I think
yeah,
it was obviously more about like, just the state of the tour, the schedule, like all that kind of stuff. I feel like I was not really encouraged from a player standpoint by what I saw today. And I think it's interesting that he's really starting to kind of almost prioritize the next stage of his career and just starting to almost transition into that like advisor board member role. So that was just one thing I noticed that you kind of piqued my attention by like just saying could he play in the Genesis that I don't think he's really concerned about that was the vibe I got.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of like my biggest takeaway from the whole thing was he seems like he's just in a different place in his life, and especially with now being on the board of the tour, it's just he's just thinking about things in a different perspective. And like we're talking about with will he, won't he play at the Masters? Does it make sense? You know what it doesn't make sense to do is say, no, I'm not playing right now. Because guess
yeah.
what's good for golf? Everybody thinking Tiger Woods is going to play in the Masters. So there's
No, good
literally
point.
no reason for him to say, I'm not playing right now.
That's very
When
true. Yeah,
even if he thinks there's a 2% chance, he's still going to not rule it out. You know what I mean?
definitely. No, that's super fair.
Um,
Okay. Anything else on Tiger?
No, I'll let you tie a bow on it now,
We
Kyle.
good? Okay, the bow has been officially tied. Let's move
we'll see you
on.
guys back here next year for the same conversation.
A
Probably.
100%, 100%. Okay, let's talk a little Genesis here. So we've got our second signature event of the year. We know last year it was played at Torrey Pines due to the fires in the Pacific Palisades. So I'm sure it'll be a little bit of a celebration in its return to Riviera. Um, I'm interested to see, especially with some of the developments around the fires in the Pacific Palisades the last month, if there's any conversation about that on the broadcast. I'm a little bit interested in that, but I'm sure it'll be more of a celebration in its return to Riviera. So, Will, what are you looking at here as we kick off our Riviera coverage?
Yeah, I mean, to start, like this is just a great tournament. I think Nick mentioned it right before we pressed record. This is one of the best tournaments of the year, and it's a lot of it is because of the course, and it's so great to have it back at Riviera. Riviera is a fantastic course. I mean, it's set up to play around 7,400 this year, 7,400 yards, and it's one of like, in my opinion, like the most multi-dimensional courses on the PGA Tour in that it really will require players to hit every club in their bag and have every club in their bag dialed in. It's not, like it's not heavily favored towards guys who hit the ball really far. This year, I'm thinking might be a little different just with the soft conditions. I know it was raining during Tiger's press conference on Tuesday, and it should get a little bit of like softer conditions, especially early in the week.
Yeah, they've had a lot of
Um,
rain the last few days.
yeah, which is a little unfortunate just because this course plays really fun when it's hard and fast, but it'll be great nonetheless, and hopefully dries out a little bit as we get into the weekend. You mentioned a lot of it. I think, like I said, some soft conditions potentially. There's only been one playoff here in 9 years, which is kind of the opposite of what we've seen early in this season. I know Sony and WM are both tournaments that have a ton of playoffs. Obviously, like you said, last year was Ludwig Oberg winning when it was at Torrey Pines. The most recent one here was Hideki shooting a Sunday 62 to take the win over Zalatoris. One of the better Sunday performances we've seen in a long time. But it's a great course to specify on the not one dimensional, multi-dimensional aspect of it. They play with Kikuyu rough, which I'm almost certainly butchering the pronunciation of it. But it's a very erratic rough. It's like pretty short, but the ball can like either sit on top or nestle down. You can catch flyers. It can come out a little dead. So it makes that iron play out of that rough really difficult. And it's a contrast to what we saw last week at AT&T, and that the greens are pretty big, but still very, very tough. They run really fast. There's a lot of subtle undulations in there that you might not see coming. A lot of that detail, by the way, is per Ron Close, who does some really good work on X. You should definitely check him out. But yeah, they still play really tough, and there's a lot of guys that are interesting this week for sure. But I mean, this course is truly one of the best that we see all year, and I'm really excited to have the this tournament back here.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, obviously just touching on what Will said, just obviously the softer course fit. I know like hole one, I think is one of the best holes on tour. I think it's one of the more underrated ones in the fact that if the conditions are right, it basically plays like a par four. And if you make par on it, you're essentially shooting yourself out of the tournament. I think it's a really interesting hole. And I think Riviera, it's not a challenging course, but if you hit it in the wrong area, it will certainly come back. If you bite, it will bite back. And so I think I'm really excited to see how obviously if the rain has softened it a bit, that might make it a bit more scoreable. But I think just seeing how the tour players kind of obviously we saw Pebble was very scoreable last week, even with the weather, but just seeing how they can deal with that, I'm very excited to see.
Yeah, I think like you mentioned, Nick, on the first hole, just to add a couple numbers to your anecdote, which is so true, is that the first hole since 20 or last year specifically played on average 0.76 under par, birdie or eagle more than 70% of the time. So it's just like you
Last
said,
year at Torrey or
no, sorry, 2 years ago, last iteration
okay,
at Riviera. Apologies, yes,
okay.
2024, not 2025. Played 0.76 under par. But yeah, it should be really good. The course tends to really lend itself to like good around the green play. Obviously, with like potentially longer approaches, like 150 to 200 yards is kind of where guys tend to be approaching from, especially emphasized more than other courses. And their three par threes play longer than 190. I was looking at the scorecard. The fourth hole is on the card as a 273-yard par three, which is sick. Just love that. Just not a par three at all, but or at least not for me. For these guys, it is obviously. But yeah, I mean the softer conditions, not to harp on it over and over and over again, it will probably emphasize, carry distance and longer irons again. I think we saw a little bit of that a couple the first tournament of the year down at Sony. When it was still a little wet down there, we saw, some of those dog legs you can cut off when the conditions are a little softer. So it could be slightly more scoreable this year than it otherwise has been. But there are a lot of players to jump into some of the guys that fit this course well. Just looking at guys that are consistent across their putting, their around the green play, and their approach. Again, it's like a pretty multi-dimensional course. So there's not really it's not focused on one aspect of the game. These are really like the well-rounded guys. Obviously, Scotty Scheffler. I mean, I'm not
Wow.
going to spend a ton of time. The best player in golf, surprise, is a good course fit here as he is
I would
every
have,
single week.
God, I
I
would have
know,
never guessed that.
ridiculous. Dude, he's like, I think he's plus 300 to win last I saw. Is that still right? Plus 315. That kind of feels like the best bet to make. I like even from an like what are I forget how the percentages work, but I'm pretty sure that's like an implied 30% or something like that odds to win. And I would put his odds to win much higher than 30%
That's
personally.
incredible.
Yeah, it's always scary when you see like plus 300 in a golf tournament. You're like, that's probably the right choice, frankly. Um, he's playing really well, obviously, and he's played here okay before. Top 20 in each of his last four starts here, but never better than a T7. Fun fact, which for Scotty Scheffler is about as bad as it gets. But yeah, I mean, some of the top guys, Scotty, Rory, Tommy, are all guys to watch for sure. Just guys that are consistent across their game. Rory probably needs his putting from last week to sort out a little bit for this tournament. Although it seemed to me, just looking at his strokes gained on Data Golf, that his issues were pretty isolated to early in the week last week. He putted okay for the tournament in general. I think he was around uh, like nothing, like no strokes gained, none lost, pretty much for the tournament. Um,
Well, that's going to
so
be a
if he,
fantastic group. You got Colin, Rory, and Tommy paired together on Thursday,
yeah,
Friday. I mean, that's must watch.
100%, yeah, and those are all guys that have played pretty decently here before. Tommy's just like moved up the rank every single time. I think T37, T28, T20, T10 in his four starts here. There's a gap in there for a couple years that he didn't play, but yeah, this it really just fits the most well-rounded golfers on tour. I think is the short and sweet way to say this is that the guys who drive it well, hit irons well, chip well, and putt well are probably going to win this thing, which is a really really boring, really obvious and really boring way to approach a golf tournament, but it's going to be true. And your guy Jake Knapp does fit the bill, Kyle. I was surprised to see that he is I have this summer. I think he's second in the field behind only Scotty Scheffler in true strokes gained per round in the last 6 months, which
Incredible.
is
Oh, wow.
wild. I mean, obviously 6 months is tough because we're going, but there hasn't been that many golf tournaments.
Okay, yeah, it's true.
The sample size is not huge, but it is more than 15 rounds that's being analyzed there. And he is second behind Scotty, and first in putting, which could come in handy this week. And he's a California boy. I mean, he's from out there, Costa Mesa, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's
from out
all
in
I know you've got the note here. I don't think he's played the tournament competitively, but there's no way he hasn't played this
right.
course a bunch of times in his life.
Yeah, he went to UCLA. I was trying to find record of him playing in tournament conditions. It doesn't seem like it's happened, but he surely has been out at Riviera several times and knows this place quite well. So the only downside to that is that I don't think the last person to win here in their first time playing it was Adam Scott in 2005, and that was a 36-hole tournament shortened because of rain. So really, it's almost never happened. But again, that's not to say that Jake Knapp has no experience here. I would probably be safe in assuming that he knows this place really really well.
Totally. Nick, who you got your eye on?
We mentioned, Will said kind of like the boring tournament. Uh, what am I saying? Just
The all around great golfers, the
yeah,
boring golfers.
just the boring does everything right, fits the mold. And so on that look, I'm gonna go Patrick Cantlay. I
Oh,
think
it's
he's
so
someone
boring.
that
It's so
I,
boring.
we'll finish the tournament like when Tiger's teeing it up at Augusta. Patrick Cantlay will be putting in on 18 to seal the tournament win at the Genesis. Like by that time, it's no, I think Cantlay plays very well at this tournament. You look at his past three results. He had the T5 at Torrey, tied for fourth in 2024, and then solo third in 2023. He's one of the best like long irons from like 150 plus out on tour. Um, Around the green, putting, he does everything you need to. Obviously, his driving portfolio is maybe a little bit less than what you would obviously want. I think he's 73rd in strokes gained off the tee right now, but 12th on approach, 40th around the green, 83rd putting, which isn't great, but overall when you mesh them all together, he's 25th on just total strokes gained. And so I think he's someone who course portfolio fits very well. And you look at how he finished T14 at Pebble with a 7 under 65 in his final round. So I think he's coming into this tournament nice and hot. He's in form. And so I think he definitely can be a force this week.
Yeah, I can't agree more. Unfortunately, as much as I don't dislike Patrick Haley, it's just like you said, he is like you'll look up and you'll be like, oh my God, he played this week. I didn't even know. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden he's in the top three and in the final group on Sunday. And this is a tournament where I could totally see him doing that. I mean, you need to play boring, steady golf, and this is a great place to do it. Another guy that I'm curious about, I know I mentioned that guys, I think it was again, I think this was per Ron Close, was that 17 of the last 19 winners had played this tournament four times before they'd won.
Mhm.
So again, it is a course that favors people with experience. I'm going to go directly contrary to that and shout out a couple guys that just don't have that much experience here. And Maverick McNeely and Victor Hovland are two that I'm definitely curious about. Victor
Mhm.
does have four starts, so he's got that going for him, but no more than four, and he's never been outside the top 20. Obviously, a great iron player. It's just a matter of how tinkery are we going to be going into this for Victor? How tinkery are we going to be going into this event? I mean, there's been lots of videos of him with floaties on his arms, trying to remember how to hit driver on the range after last week.
Not
Not a great
exactly
sign.
inspiring confidence.
No,
Yeah,
no,
he's searching right now.
it's not, but like weirdly it is for me. Like that would turn me off of almost any guy, but for some reason I'm seeing Victor do that. I'm like, you know what? Like this might be it. But no, because he can find it out of nowhere for no reason. He'll suddenly hit 14 fair or 12 fairways, whatever it is. But Maverick McNeely's been playing really, really good golf, and he is one of those guys that is just like consistent. There's not a lot of big numbers. There's not a lot of significant mistakes, which is part of what worries me about Rory this week is the big numbers we saw him put up last week. And, this is a place where if you lay down a seven, it's going to be hard to battle back from, especially if you lay down two sevens in one round, like Rory did on Saturday. Um, but McNeely, like I said, only has two starts here. He was cut the first time and then T7 the second time in the two times he played at Riviera. His profiles, like in terms of strokes gained, were very, very similar across both years, other than the fact that his around the green play in 2023 was just like abysmal. So that has been working pretty well for him. And it should, in theory, fit his game well if he's able to get out there and like step on it. But again, it is an experience type of golf course, and only having 2 years under your belt is not necessarily a cause for optimism. But he is definitely somebody I'm keeping an eye on this week. Is there Kyle? You got anybody else you want to shout out or
I was gonna
mention?
ask you guys about a couple of the Southern California guys, both
Hmm.
Xander and Max Homa, both who haven't very quite played very well yet this year, but both who have a good history here, and both obviously from SoCal, so they know the course very well. I think this is Homa's home course.
Hmm.
So I'm wondering what you guys think, and what do we think? We haven't even mentioned Colin, last week's winner, if we think he
Dude,
can stay hot.
I was thinking about this just to do Colin quickly. If he hadn't won last week, I'd be like kind of really into that idea. For some reason, just the fact that he's coming off a win, I'm like, it doesn't happen two times in a row that
Yeah, no
often.
way.
No,
Like,
it never
I
does.
know, like statistically, I don't think that actually works out in like in terms of who's most likely to win the tournament. I don't think that should be a factor, but just in my head, I'm like, he's not. He won. I almost want to cross him off. I'm like, oh, he won last week, so he can't possibly do it again. But I mean, it fits his game. It like iron play. The around the green, his around the green is not great. It was kind of a weak spot last week at AT&T that didn't lose him the tournament, but nearly did. But he's a guy to watch for sure. Max Homa, I can't buy in right now, unfortunately. I was a little
Yeah.
bit in early this year when we were like first two events. I was looking at him because he was playing so well in TGL, which turns out isn't that great of an indicator.
Well, Colin
Um,
said t his TGL
he did,
that primed him for victory when he was getting iced on 18. He said it
yeah,
himself.
he did. He was like even at TGL, sometimes standing there not hitting a shot for a while. I was like, random shout out. I don't know, Nick. What do you think? I like Shoffley a lot this week, but Homa to me is not somebody I'm really willing to put a single egg in his basket.
I don't know. I mean, with Xander, like he's not someone that I'm going to just really back. I feel like he's someone that, maybe he's on the outside looking in, but I'm not really sold on him just yet. I feel like I need to see a little bit more. Obviously, I think, his T15 or T19, excuse me, at Pebble was better. But if you just look at like obviously his last round had just a bunch of bogeys sprinkled in there. It's been inconsistent play all throughout the year. I think if there was a course where, Xander is going to kind of reassert himself on the 2026 season, it would be Riviera. But I just need to see a little bit more from Xander before I can start, saying like, oh, X got it.
Yeah, I agree generally. I think I'd be like super confident in the fact that I feel super confident that he will be around, that like he's going to be in that top
Right.
15, top 20 area, but just him converting on a win does seem a little bit like a stretch right now. I need to see it before I start betting on it. And he does, I mean, in his seven starts, he's got five top 20s and two top 10s. T4 is his best finish. And he's good. I feel like he'll live up to that billing and not much more, like I feel like he'll be around that top 15 kind of space, but it's
Yeah.
tough. It's tough for me to see him winning. Although that I almost made Nico Echeverria win last week, so maybe I can give a little magic to Xander Schauffele here.
Yeah, for sure. And then now to SoCal boy, but do I spy Jason Day on that list, Will?
Yeah, this was tentative. I was sad, but this was I don't know how this is going to pay off because I kind of think he might blow up, but
So
he
he's
did
winning
have
now.
two. Yeah, I would love that. That's one that I'd be psyched about if I was wrong. Two top tens in his last two starts here. I think like T9 and 9 or two T9, something like that. Um, the around the green play is really what put him up here for me. Like he's a guy who um obviously that's like the name of his game is how consistent and pretty like incredible he is chipping and putting. And that's big at Riviera. I think it's going to be tough not having much distance off the tee in softer conditions. Like it just is going to be harder for him to convert, and that's kind of the reason. Yeah, it's hard for me to believe that he will be winning this thing. Like I feel like he'll put together consistent rounds of golf, a handful of 69s or something like that, 69, 70, a couple under par pretty consistently. I just don't see him having that round of 65 or 64 or two or three rounds of 65 that you might need to win this thing,
Mhm.
especially with softer conditions because guys are going to be able to pin hunt a little bit more. Um, but yeah, it's a tentative Jason Day. I do have my guy Cam Young on there too, but I was pretty discouraged by the play last week, so I'm not even gonna give him a ton of screen time here.
If you
Um,
if you guys had to guess what Jason Day's odds were to finish top 10, what would you think?
oh, top 10. I would guess that he's top 10 plus.
3,000?
No, top 10. I was
No,
gonna say plus 410.
plus 370 right now on
God,
Oh,
FanDuel.
380 was my first guess. Should always go with my instinct. Uh, I mean that makes sense. Like, yeah, that's
He's right there along with JJ Spawn is also plus 370. Keegan Bradley is at plus 340. Shane Lowry plus 340. Ricky plus 310.
okay.
So Spieth is, what would you say Spieth is, Nick?
Ooh.
minus 700.
Yes. It's a lock,
He's
actually.
I mean,
plus
you
plus
want around the
400.
green. That's our guy around the green, short game. That's his MO. Like,
Is plus 400, really?
Plus
I'm
400
surprised
to
that
finish top 10. Plus
having
140
having
to be top 20.
Jason Day and him being in the same stratosphere makes sense to me.
Yeah.
All love to JJ Spawn. The fact that JJ Spawn is ahead of Jordan Spieth in odds to be in the top 10 this week is a little surprising. I like what has JJ Spawn done for me this year?
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's a
I
good
don't know.
question.
To be fair, Jordan Spieth was T29, and that's the high we're riding right now.
I mean,
But
I think
Nick,
he played
yeah,
better than the stats show. Come
he
on,
did.
Will.
I
Like,
agree. I agree. I 100% agree. The T29 was not representative of the Jordan Spieth we got at Pebble Beach last week.
exactly. If anything, he was just, tapering it back so that, we don't have the ridiculous expectations heading into this. It was a strategic, what was it, a 70 in his final? It was like a strategic
72.
70, a strategic 72.
He's like who was it? Emmanuel Classe, like fixing
Oh,
fixing the
God.
books. He's setting the lines because he knows he can get top 10. He just wants all those extra odds to get him up there.
All right, so we're gonna see
Not
Jordan
even
Spieth, Kalshi ambassador next week, or
we
Oh
might. We
man.
might. He'll join who is it? Giannis, that's also
Yeah.
he's a
Bryson.
Kalshi guy, Bryson. That makes yeah, they'll be that'll be a fun trio. But yeah, those are most of the guys I kind of had my eye on. Fun shout out to Bubba Watson for winning here three times. Random, but good
I
for
miss
him.
Bill Watson.
Yeah, forget that guy
Joaquin
exists.
Neiman, 2022 champion. Dude, Bubba Watson's got two green jackets. Isn't that like incredible?
Insane.
Um, Joaquin Neiman won here in 2022. Homa did win here in 2021. Worth a shout out. Like you said, this is like his home. Like if a course was built for Max Homa, it's Riviera. Um, and he's won here in it's T16 or better in his last five starts here, including a T5 in 2020, a win in 2021, and a solo second as recently as 2023. But I mean, he's just not playing good golf, and it's been long enough now where I'm not willing to give him a ton of respect in terms of the chances of him finishing high on this leaderboard this week. Prove me
Yeah.
wrong, Max. I'd love that.
Well,
There is a track record.
There is.
yeah, we could definitely use that for some content. Would make for some good stuff.
Yeah, so
Okay.
who's not winning this week, Will? Let's
Yeah,
Okay,
put that.
I'll
exactly.
get. Oh,
Yes.
that's true. Wait, that's a good.
Please.
Do you guys talk for 2 seconds while I look at the field, and I'll tell you who's not winning.
Yeah, this would be a good segment every week. Will can tell us
Yeah.
Will
exactly who
picks. Will
isn't,
picks least likely to win,
who is
and
not
they.
absolutely,
Okay, let me go down
unequivocally
here.
not winning. I mean, my
Okay,
my boy Napster is plus 260 to finish in the top 10. I mean, he's rising.
yeah. I got to go kind of down this board though, right? Like I got to be
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah. You gotta.
okay. I mean, I'll give it Garrick Higo, my guy. I'm sorry. I won't. He's actually like plus 14,000. He's shorter odds than Nico Echeverria is, but he is. I'll put the stamp on it. We need one of those animations where it's like boom, and it's just not winning, and it's
Yeah.
Garrick Higo.
No, I think it's
Uh,
the my guy.
yeah, those are not my guy.
I
You
love you,
know,
my guy. You're definitely not winning this
yeah,
tournament.
yeah. But hey, Garrick, if you somehow hear me slandering your name right now, just know that it worked out great for Nico Echeverria last week. So, Garrick Higo, you're going to be my not my guy this week. All due respect.
Oh God,
I
I
love
love
it.
it.
It's always with respect. We always say it with
Of
respect.
course.
Always.
Okay. Any final thoughts on Riviera?
I'm
I'm excited.
psyched.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome to watch. We've got a bunch of good guys in the field, some great pairings, or not pairings, but some great trios on Friday and
Yeah, I
Thursday,
do. I do
Friday.
really hope it dries out. I
Yes.
really hope we get some run. I think it makes the tournament so much more fun when you're, thinking about if your ball is going to run through a fairway on a dog leg or if you need to land it short of the green or in the front of the green to get it to that back pin rather than just stuff it, especially considering how good these guys are. But it's going to be a great weekend. We're going to have great back-to-backs, I think, AT&T into this one. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on then. We can talk about the follow through real quick, and I think talking about some of our follow through picks, we'll touch on the LPGA Tour event as well. For me, I've got Tommy and Neil Shipley, of course, and then my girl is Gino Titaku, and she is world number one, of course. She's going to be playing in front of her home crowd. She's playing along the defending champion Angel Yin for the first round. So obviously very excited for her. Hopefully she can pull it out for me in my follow through pick. Will, what about you?
Yeah, Hyjin Choi obviously is my woman on my follow through team, and she did not play earlier this year at the Tournament of Champions that they do on the LPGA Tour. As I mentioned, I think when we were covering that tournament, a lot of or some of the players that live out in Asia don't necessarily always make the trip back here before going back to Asia for the Asian swing. Um, but she will be in the field this week, and she's played okay here before at the Honda LPGA Thailand, T27, T3, T26, and I don't know why I did that in chronological order instead of going back to front, but whatever. Either way, T3 2 years ago, that's the one I've got my eyes on. She is currently 17th in the Rolex Women's World Golf Rankings. I think that is slanderous. I think she is a much better golfer than that. I think that obviously she didn't win last year. Um, Sorry, yeah, that's why it was never mind. Ignore me, but she didn't win last year, which is why she was not at the Tournament of Champions, not because she couldn't make it. Unfortunately, she wasn't invited. But she is a great golfer, wasn't able to notch the win, but has like a ton of top tens, has some really good experience from last year, and I think definitely will find her way to the winner's circle this year. You will see her at that Tournament of Champions next year, and I would not be surprised if she starts the season off hot this week. I think we got a big year ahead for Hai-Jin Choi.
And then just kind of ending it off with me, I kind of talked on Monday about both Ludwig Oberg and Jordan Spieth. We'll take it straight to Lottie Wode. T7 at the Tournament of Champions. Looked in prime position. He got off to a really hot start with a 67 in her first round, but really just kind of fell back. I think was four over par on round three, and then really kind of struggled when the weather shifted, and then just when the tournament got um, shortened, she kind of got screwed there. But making her first start at this event, I think she could be mix in the field. I think she's primed for a very good 2026.
Yeah. Before we fully move on from the follow through, I do want to talk. We introduced the idea of tracking for the majors and the guys that are on the bubble, looking at on the outside, looking in. Daniel Berger, another one of my follow through guys, is in that position right now. He's currently 60th in OWGR. He was 53rd. He does not have a good history at the Genesis when it's held at Riviera. It was ugly. So I don't have high hopes, but I am definitely going to be watching his as that storyline progresses on if he can find his way into these major championships this year. Because obviously I'm rooting for him as a guy that is on my hypothetical team, my group I like to think we're a team, the four of us, good buddies, all of us. Really, we
I
spend a
I,
lot of time texting.
I think they
But
think about you
Mhm.
in that light as well.
I think so too. I think they know me. They know me very well, obviously. But no, I'm. It will be an interesting storyline to track. Obviously, I'd love to see him in the majors, but he has dropped outside of the range that would currently get him in.
Will, are you one of those people that makes like an Instagram DMs group chat for your fantasy football team and just like sends updates every week?
I didn't this year. There was a time in high school where I was like, "Hey guys, we got to pick it up. The playoffs are coming. Like, I need some real effort out of you. I know you're not trying hard enough on Sundays, so step it up." No, I've never been a huge DM. I'm pretty conscious of the fact that they are not going to see anything I send them, so I don't tend to get in there. But I might have to take that approach with Daniel Berger as we get towards the cutoff for the Masters in early April.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anything else we want to touch on preview wise?
I think,
Do we is Patrick Reed in the field in Kenya?
ooh, that's a good one.
Presumably, I would presume he is. I should have checked this out, but I if he is,
Um,
I am.
I don't think he is.
Oh, that's a shame. Okay.
He's gonna play
Well,
in the South African Open next week.
okay. No, so no Patrick Reed this week on the DP World Tour. It's a shame. I would have loved to see him, stay hot, but I guess we'll have to wait till the week after. But no, that's all. That's all I had on everything else.
Awesome. Okay. So we, of course, follow our socials. We will be posting everything throughout the rounds on Thursday, Friday, and of course, Saturday and Sunday. Will and Nick both do a great job. Follow us on Twitter at Center Cup Pod. All our bios are in there. At Instagram at centercup.pod, TikTok at centercup.a.golf. And don't worry, Will is going to be giving out some bets and some picks. So everybody just calm down. They're gonna
The
It's
get you
people are
coming,
calling.
guys.
The people are
the
asking.
people are dying for our picks. So they're gonna get out there. Don't worry. And all is
Considering I
all
went 1 for 4 last week, I don't know what they're looking for, but
that's
hey,
better. They better know for
Hall of
four.
Fame batting average right there,
Yeah,
almost.
absolutely. That's for betting. That's not too bad, honestly. And email us at centercup.pod@yahoo.com. Have we gotten any emails yet?
I
Anybody
was gonna
reached
ask
out?
that. Yeah, has anybody
I
ever?
I think my father potentially. No,
Okay.
I'll go take a peek. I haven't been as diligent about checking it, but the last time I checked a couple days ago, the inbox was running dry. So please hit us up. We're
Well,
lonely and sad.
Mr. Neary, keep on flooding our inbox, please. We love it. We love
Yeah,
hearing about it. And we will be back on next week, Monday and Wednesday, for our usual programming, recapping everything we saw over the weekend and any breaking news, of course. Any final parting words, boys?
hit him straight.
Hit 'em straight and hit 'em long. All right. Enjoy the golf this weekend, everybody. We will talk to you later.